I learned conventional and I just built my strength conventionally. So had I learned sumo and kind of worked my way up on both, I probably would like it more, but it's just not comfortable for me. You also get a lot more adductor activation when you do the sumo, just based on the stance and the position of your toes. So it's kind of personal preference. A lot of power lifters who compete do sumo just because the bar path is shorter. You're not traveling, the bar's not moving as much from the ground. So look here, like if I pick up the bar, look where I'm finishing because my hands are in the center, and the bar, look where how far off the ground the plates are right now. Like take a mental note, right? Now if I move my feet in closer, see how much farther the bar had to go just to get to the full lockout, because that's in powerlifting, that's what they look at. You have to be locked out completely, standing tall, your hips and knees have to be straight. So because of that, like they don't care which position you pull from, but a lot of people who compete prefer that wider stance because the bar doesn't have to travel as far. So it's up to you, like personal preference. But so with that said, should we talk about just conventional? What do you guys all deadlift conventional?
Yeah, that's what we've been. I do. We think that's what we're doing.
Okay, so back to, which I like a lot too, because me also being a kettlebell specialist, like that's really my area of expertise is kettlebell training, and conventional deadlifts transfer really well into kettlebell training because of that hip hinge and the setup they were talking about earlier with the shoulders, hips, and knees. That's exactly what a kettlebell swing looks like. So the mechanics are very similar. So for a setup, again, kind of personal preference. Some people prefer their toes straight forward. Some people prefer a slight turnout. Some people prefer a super narrow stance. Some people prefer a little wider stance. It's really up to you. Depends on your arm length, depends on your femur length. It's very individualized. So you kind of have to play around with it and see what's going to feel the best for you. But generally, about hip width is going to be where people prefer to set up the bar, or to set up your feet. So from here, I want everyone to find their hip crease. So that's where your hips fold in half. So this is, you guys, since you're Marines, you'll laugh, but I always
for us, it's where the fat rolls are.
I teach my clients.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
This is how I teach my clients, and I think you guys will appreciate this. But I say, make your knife hands, find your hip crease, and karate chop your hip crease with your knife hands, and then sit back, and you'll know when you find it, and you'll know if you're hinging versus squatting. Because I watched you, the first thing you did was bend your knees, so your knees went this way. We want our hips to go this way, and if you do that, you're gonna feel your hips crush your fingers. Do you feel it? If you squat, you won't feel it so much, but if you push your hips back and you crush your knife hands with your hips, you'll know where your hip crease is, and you'll know that you're hinging. Does that make sense? Yes. So far, so good? Okay.
I felt that it did.
Yeah.
So just slight bend in the knee though, right?
Slight bend in the knees, yep. And then when you set up in front of a bar, you'll know how much knee bend you need to do in order to get to the bar. So what we don't want to do though is, watch my back. So what we don't want to do is hinge and then, okay, here's my bar, right? A lot of people do that. Why does that happen? Most likely because of a lack of mobility and or flexibility. Here's why. So if my hamstrings are really tight, right, a deadlift, we're gonna be activating the posterior chain, so the glutes and hamstrings. So if I'm pushing my hips back and my hamstrings are locked up and they're not letting me get any farther back, because this right here requires hamstring length, right? So if I can't get there, but my bar's down here and I need to get to it, how else can I get there? That's the only other way I can get there, right, is to bend and fold in the upper back. So if that's happening to somebody, they're not picking that bar up from the ground. We're either gonna work on mobility, we definitely are gonna work on mobility, but if I still wanna pull that barbell, because we wanna get stronger, of course, we're gonna elevate that barbell off the ground. So we're gonna stack it on top of plates. Basically, we're gonna bring the floor to the person higher, to whatever point they need to in order to maintain that flat back. We definitely do not wanna do this, because you do that 1 time, 3 times, 5 times, 100 times, you're now teaching your body that's how to deadlift. And you're not working on your mobility, so we're not fixing the problem, we're just building bad movement patterns. Does that make sense? Cool. So with that, let's say we do have proper mobility, right? So we can get to the bar, we can hinge, everything like that. We're gonna set it up, and we're gonna have, generally the distance I like to tell people kind of works for most people is about a thumb's distance away from the body. So if your feet are set up where you like them, you hinge down about a thumb away, and then that's where you're gonna grab the bar. Again, can go in, can go out, but that's a good place to start. And then when you grab the bar, I always tell people, imagine you're trying to bend the metal in half. So obviously you're not going to, I don't think, maybe you are. If you're really, really strong, maybe you could, but bend it in half like this, because what that does, Watch what happens up here if I grab the bar very passively, right? I'm not doing much, my hands are wrapped around. Now watch what happens when I crush the bar and then I bend it. See what happens to my shoulders?
Wow. Yeah.
So now what I'm doing is I'm keeping distance between my ears and shoulders, turning my lats on. The lats are these muscles right here. Use them for pull-ups, hopefully. They're very, very, very big and very strong. We want to pull with the lats and then the lower body, glutes and hamstrings, right? And obviously the core too. But if we aren't activating and people are up here, they're pulling with their shoulders up in their ears, or they're not maximizing this potential right here, we can use our lower back. We end up pulling with our upper traps, things we don't want to be doing. So the more, could be that, and then kettlebell swings up here, and also just like as humans living in the 21st century, a lot of us carry our stress up here. We're always on our devices, driving, computers. So all that, like how many hours or minutes a day are we in this position without realizing it? We're just adding tension to our traps up here. And that's like, doing 8 hours a day of sitting in at the computer, and then we go to the gym, those muscles are already like firing, they're already very overactive. You can't possibly expect them to just like snap your fingers and they're gonna work the way you want them to when you go to the gym. Like our habits that we have in our lifestyle carry over into everything that we do. So that can be something to think about and just bring more attention and awareness to throughout your day, is like what muscles are you using, what posture are you sitting in when you're at your computer. If your chair is here and your computer's over here and you're always like this, or you sit and turn to talk to the person next to you, like doing that minutes and hours a day and weeks and on months and years, whatever, like that can really impact how we feel in our life. So we have to keep that in mind too. Like what we do in the gym is not happening in a vacuum. It's impacted by everything else that we do in our life. So with that said, sorry?
Is it very cool? I never thought of that.
Yeah, I feel like because this is what I like. This is the world I live in. So I'm like, of course, it's common sense. But then it's not. It's totally not, because we're not. Why would we know that? We just go about our day. We're all in our fields in our life, and we do our thing. So hold on, water break. Any questions so far?
Yeah, what about this grip?
Great question.
I was actually going to bring that up. I see a lot of like that being the standard. Just ultimate.
So there.
Continue.
If you are pulling, if you're trying to go heavy, that grip absolutely will help you. Reason being, because you're now attacking the bar from two sides, right? So you're having a lot more secure grip when you can attack the bar from both angles versus here. As soon as your grip goes, like it's just gonna slip out of your hands. You can't really fight that too much.
Now
but
that method you said, trying to bend the bar, how would that apply?
Great question. So still applies. So watch my shoulders here. I can still do it. The only thing here is that by nature of the way that I'm gripping the bar, this shoulder is a little bit more internally rotated while this one is externally rotated. So if you watch what's happening with the head of the shoulder, right? One's internally rotated, one's externally rotated. We can still retract the scapula. So not to get too anatomical here, but the shoulders, these are the shoulders, right? The deltoids, the front, side, and rear deltoid. The scapula are the shoulder blades, the wings right there.
Nice.
Yeah, now you know what they are. So, yeah, so those are the shoulder blades. They're separate. People often interchange them, shoulder blades, but they do work, there's a rhythm to them. So when I'm here, when I'm grabbing the bar here, my shoulders, this shoulder is, when I'm here, this is internally rotated, this is externally rotated. My shoulder blades are retracted, meaning I'm pulling them back. So this is retraction, protraction, retraction. So when you're doing a deadlift or a row or pretty much anything, we want to be retracted, because that is the safest position by locking the shoulder blades in place. I always tell people, think about putting your shoulder blades in your back pockets. Can you visualize what that would look like? Yeah? So if you think about pulling your shoulder blades into your back pockets, and that's how you lift anything off the ground, you row, you pull-ups, that position is going to be the safest for your shoulders. Because we're now, think about this, like if I were, can I borrow a person? All right, put your arm out in front of you. May I touch?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I grab you like this, just relax. I'm gonna pull your shoulder towards me. Just let me do it.
Okay.
So see how his shoulder, I'm able to pull him like this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I want you to row, like imagine you're doing like a seated cable row or something, and then keep your shoulder like forward like that. Okay, now let me pull you, and then pull it back. Now pull your shoulder down. Good. Now let me pull you forward. Now pull your shoulder down and back. Good. Do you see the difference between all those things?
Power,
Yeah. So if he's rowing or doing pull-ups, same thing applies, except now I'm overhead. So if I pull from here, do you see what's working? If I'm doing pull-ups, these are all traps. So if I do this and I pull my shoulders into my back pockets, my lats are now working. So that's going to, one, get your lats stronger, and two, let your traps relax. And if you're doing this by default, it's probably because your traps are overactive to begin with. So that's something to think about when it comes to shoulders, shoulder blades, what's happening when you're pulling vertically or horizontally. So that applies to the deadlift. I know we just went on like 7 tangents, but internal, external rotation. So even if you are gripping the bar from here, we still want to retract the scapula. So pull my shoulder blades into my back pockets, and now I can pull like this, and I'm not letting this happen. Because if I pull, turn to the side. If I'm pulling, see my shoulder blades here?
Yeah.
They're protracted, and now they're retracted. So if I pull from here, it doesn't look very good, right?
Yeah.
Versus now my back is flat. You see the shoulders, hips, knees?
Yeah.
Cool. So that's kind of the basics of the setup. Do you guys have any questions on that?
Nope.
Let me try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just gonna
Let's go around.
All right, sir.
I'm trying to remember everything so I don't fail the test.
Hey,
There's no
don't
test.
embarrass us, sir.
No test.
So I'm just gonna do like I normally do, okay? So I'll go down, tip it down, like that, drop, and I go like that. That's how it feels like normal to me.
Okay, do it again. Do like 3 reps.
What I want to do is this, right?
Yes.
Don't try teaching me this on ship. I can never get this. That?
Yes. So for you, go ahead and get into your starting position again.
Might be cramping up.
So just set it up, but don't actually pick it up yet. All right, so pause right there. Do you guys see how his knees are going inward relative to his toes? Yeah? So that's a really common thing. I can't just look at it and say that this is why it's happening, but it is common, and generally it happens because these muscles right here, the glute medius, are sleeping. And if you sit at a desk a lot, that's very common. So the muscles right here, the glute medius, are the muscles that prevent this from happening. So when if we didn't have glute medius and we walked, we would just walk like this, because those muscles are what keep our knees from knocking in. So sometimes it's just awareness, sometimes it's that we need to activate them. But if you have our band guy over here, I'm sure he has some bands he could lend you. But put a band around your knees and just do that activates. Have you ever done band walks, like these things?
I've seen them.
Yeah.
So doing those before he did deadlift.
Exactly. To activate the glute medius right here. And then you can even keep them on while you're deadlifting to give yourself some external feedback to like fight out, push the band out and fight it. So if your tendency is to do this and we put the band here and you think about pushing out against it, just do that right now. So everyone hang out here for a second. Remember your proper hip hinge, right? Knife hands, you're never gonna forget that. Knife hands, sit back. So let your knees cave forward or cave inward. Now grip the ground with your toes. So actually like crush the floor with your feet. And now imagine you're trying to rip a piece of paper beneath your feet. So you're trying to pull the paper apart and rip it in half without actually moving your feet. Do you feel these muscles right here?
Yeah.
So that's the muscles that are sleeping on him, we think, most likely.
Yeah, I know I do that when I squat too.
Yes.
And
you can,
I'll be like this.
exactly. So you can get away, like, have you had any injuries? Like lower body? Okay, so you can get away with it if you're not going super heavy, but it has a shelf life. Eventually it's gonna get you. It guarantee it. So if you don't, like, if you have movement dysfunctions and you don't fix them, something's gonna happen. Your body's gonna be like, I don't like that anymore. We gotta change that. And then you're gonna figure out why it happened. So all of this, like these bad movement patterns and injuries that result from them are very preventable, but most people don't know what good looks like because no one's ever told them. So, like just being married to him for so long and working out on Marine bases and watching Marines lift, I'm just like, oh my God, like the VA could save so much money if people just learn how to lift properly, because so many injuries, I am sure.
Right here, but again, we only know what we know.
Right, and like I feel like I'm kind of drawn to, might be my future career path, we'll see. But no, to like work with, do fitness with military and tactical athletes and stuff. Yeah, I mean, and also when you fix poor movement patterns or you increase your flexibility and mobility, you improve your range of motion, you can get so much stronger. Because consider this, if you like bro reps, right? If you do bench press, you go like halfway down, right? See it in the gym all the time. Like 3 plates on the bar, you go like quarter rep, back up, or squat. Like you go here and back up. And some guy's like, yeah, I can squat 4 plates. Like, cool, but how far down are you going? You're going a quarter way down. So that guy's gonna get really freaking strong a quarter of the way down. You have him go any lower than that, he's not getting up, because he's only building strength in the range of motion in which he's working. And as soon as you're like, okay, go a little lower, he's not gonna get back up from that because he doesn't train that range of motion. And whether it's
in the Marine Corps, sometimes we put you in uncomfortable positions where you need to recruit muscles that are in a whole different range of motion than you're used to. And so when that happens, a lot of times you get injuries like on the CFT, or people try to like lift something weird and all of a sudden like they pop something out, or there's not enough support for it. They can't produce enough power from that position.
So if you improve your range of motion, so whether that's because the person doesn't know or because they can't actually get into that position, that's, depends on the case. But if you increase your range of motion and then you load that pattern in your greater range of motion, you're going to get stronger throughout that entire range versus just working that half or partial rep. So it's
that hacking of the shoulder that she was talking about, that works with the kettlebell. She does it every single time with the kettlebells when she's doing Olympic lifting. There's some tweaks with Olympic lifting that we go overhead, but pretty much hacking of your shoulder blades and getting your shoulder blades in the back pocket, that all applies almost throughout the entire field of weightlifting, because that's the proper way to continue to progress without getting injured.
So think about like, even if just like a front raise, a lot of people do like the front raises with the shoulder, right? So if let's say I have 20-pound dumbbells here and I do my front raises like this, so if I'm out here, I now have 10 pounds or however many pounds. All I feel right now is this. Yeah. People do that because they think they're trying to get their shoulders stronger. They would get so much stronger if they did that. Now I feel my front deltoid because I've put my shoulder in a stable and safe position to strengthen my shoulder. When I'm doing it out here, this joint is protracted so much that all I feel is, right?
The same thing happens with when you're doing cable, like, the tricep extensions. A lot of people like lean forward and do this, right? But if you just pack and then do that, there's just so much more recruitment of that specific muscle.
Yeah, I don't want to try it. Try it both ways. 10 pounds, they're not going to get hurt from 10 pounds.
You can tell the difference between being all the way out.
Yeah.
And just rotating that back.
So just go here. Remember when I pulled your arm out? Yeah. Do that, and then the opposite.
It's like when we're pulling our tire, we should be like that. Right?
Exactly. Yep.
I try to
the same
get
thing
some
with
sort
the,
of posture,
with
not
the rope,
like hunch it over.
With the battle rope.
Yeah.
The same thing. A lot of people like to go forward and just like do this and let their shoulders kind of like just do that. But if you pack your shoulder and then you just do that, you get a lot more power because your core gets recruited, and then you're able to produce a lot more power and then transfer over to the rope and makes that wave happen.
We needed you guys to teach this before we did the work.
Yeah. We didn't want to give you
Also, when you were doing the deadlift, I noticed that, that bar's like right against the chin.
I was just about to say that. Yes.
For
I'll wait till he comes back because he needs to hear it.
So I normally come down, we've been doing it over under. So, I didn't really know, is there a specific weight where you should go over under?
That's a really good question. So
is that specific to the person?
It's specific to, I'm not going to put out a number because everyone's deadlift capabilities are different, but in general, I like to say, like, do your lighter sets like this because, and I made this mistake as I was getting stronger when I was younger, I'm very comfortable this way, and this way feels awful to me. And I wish I had done it like given it 50-50, because regardless, either way, this way or this way is going to be stronger than this way when you get heavy enough. But it's good to give both sides some love so that you're not always pulling.
Because I always go with my dominant hand.
Same,
on top.
I do too. But it's good to practice both sides, and I wish I had known that 10 years ago when I first started deadlifting. But I'd say do your like intro sets, your get warm sets with this, so you can at least work your grip and get stronger here. And then as you get into your heavier working sets where you're going like 3s and 5s and you're trying to pull a lot of weight, do the mixed grip, and then but give both sides some love. So that way you're because this could, if you deadlift all the time or whatever, like you could end up with an imbalance, whether that's a shoulder hike or something that feels weird in the back, because yeah.
Hold on a second, I'm pitching my hand.
Yes, knife hands.
Knife hand, not knife thumb.
So I normally just do like a thumb.
Yep.
No?
Yeah, that wasn't bad. But I'm going to answer your question, and it applies to your deadlifts and yours. So he was asking, when I demonstrated, my shins were kissing the bar. Both of you were back here. So the best position is connected to the bar, because imagine the bar has 300 pounds on it or whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of weight.
When you're looking down now, I mean, that bar is right over here.
Yep.
Yeah, right over here. Okay.
Exactly.
Yep.
So
I've heard you're supposed to rake almost.
yeah, I always say shave your legs with the bar. So if I'm standing here and I'm connected to the bar, and I obviously have to reach down for it, right? So that does one thing. First thing, it forces me to push my hips back, right? Yeah. If I'm standing back here and my bar is in front of me, watch what's happening in my upper back, right? I'm not in a position that's gonna force me to pull back. Sure. So, and then two, like if I have a lot of weight on the bar, and the farther away the bar gets from me, the farther away my center of gravity is, that weight is now pulling me forward, and then I'm losing my shoulder pack, and then everything's gonna crumble from there. So if I can be right above the bar and push my hips back, grab the bar, now I can pull into it. So I always tell people, like, actually before you pull off the ground, you want to do like an initial like shrug, like not shrug like this, but like create a little tension. So if the plates are just resting on the ground now I've pulled tension. So imagine you're like pulling on a rubber band, like getting a little taut, so that you can then explode off the ground. So
and your shins are literally on
my shins are touching the bar. So when I set up, I start standing, I'll push my hips out of the way, get to the bar, grip the bar, break the bar, and as I'm breaking it, I'm actually like lowering my hips a little bit to sit back and down, pulling the plates. It's not that heavy, so I could pull them off the ground, but if it was super heavy, I wouldn't, even if I were to start pulling, they wouldn't come off the ground. So I do like an initial pull and then push the ground away from me. And I like to phrase it that way. I'm not pulling it off the ground, I'm pushing my feet into the ground as I come up. So if you think about pushing into the ground versus just pulling from the ground.
Head position. That's what I saw for him.
So
What happened?
Your head position. You're doing it like Olympic lifting versus like your normal traditional deadlift.
So yeah, we don't need to get into Olympic lifting, it's a whole other beast. But for deadlifts, this is probably one of the most common mistakes, is what people do with their head. So if we think of the spine, right, the spine goes from the tailbone all the way up to the base of the skull. Yeah. So that includes the neck, right? Yeah. So if I'm hinging, my goal is to keep a neutral spine, like keep a straight line. If I'm hinging, look where my head is. My eyes, I'm looking like at this thing right here pretty much. And I have a straight line from the top of my head to my tailbone. Okay. If I'm trying to keep that spine neutral, does that look good?
No.
Most people do it that way though.
And that's how I did it?
Well, I always remember as a kid, they were always like, keep your eyes up, keep your back straight. But yeah.
Right.
It does until you get to your neck, which is still part of your spine, right? Your cervical spine. So most people, I think whether they're trying to find a spot ahead of them or whatever the reason being, a lot of people too will get set up correctly, and then as they're getting ready to pull, they'll throw their head back first because they're thinking of like going up, and it's like this initial launch movement that people will do. So they'll go like that and then like throw their neck back and then stand up.
Yeah.
That's probably not a good idea.
Mirror.
That too.
I've seen
Yeah,
some
that's the
athletes do
one
that.
reason I keep my head up is like I want to like watch my form, and then I realize I created a bad habit doing that.
Yes, whenever I teach people how to lift, I never have them go in front of the
So you
mirror
just
to
go
start.
from here to here.
Yes, so your eyes will start like somewhere in the horizon-ish, like out there, but not straight out. So if I'm standing here and looking forward, that's not where I want my head to stay, because now I'm looking at you.
That's what you call on Kylie's video.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's very common, and I don't know where, I think the mirrors probably have a lot to do with it, because if you deadlift in front of a mirror, squat or whatever, you want to look and see yourself or whatever.
Did it for me, yeah.
And this is for traditional deadlifts. Yeah, for doing a clean or Olympic lift is different. So for deadlift,
Yeah, for Olympic lifting, it's a different sport altogether. But for conventional deadlifts, so we don't have a dowel here, but if I always teach people to hinge, deadlifts, kettlebell swings, whatever, I give them a PVC pipe,
Yeah.
put it on their back. So I have my imaginary PVC pipe here. I make 3 points of contact: my head, in between my shoulder blades, and right here at my glutes. And I hold it at the small of my back and my neck. So if I have a PVC pipe here and I start to hinge, I can't do that because there's the PVC pipes there. So you have to maintain those, in order to do a proper hinge, you have to maintain those 3 points of contact. So the main reason that people will fail at that is because they'll do this, and then I'll lose this contact point right here, or they'll do that and they have too much low back arch, and then they'll lose their shoulder blade contact.
Also, you keep your tailbone, middle back, and neck, or head on that.
Yeah, we have a demo video he can send you guys, but yeah, so head in between the shoulder blades, right above the glutes. Those are the 3 points. And then if someone cannot master that, I am not having them pick up a barbell until they can, because it's just going to lead to compensated movement patterns. What's that?
Wow, thank you so much. Let's go there, future Attorney General.
Oh yeah.
I'll take a video. I gotta go, but I'm gonna take a video of you real quick.
He's here at TAD waiting to go to TBS.
Oh, nice.
He's already at the law school and
Oh,
everything,
you
so
just
yeah.
got targeted.
This is TBS training.
That's perfect.
Looks pretty good. Do 3 more. Let me just watch from the side. Cool. So for you, your hips are quite low. You're almost in a squat. Your hips and your knees and hips are in a line. So I feel like if you push your knees back just a little bit, which will make your hips rise a little bit more, you'll get...
Is that why there's like that kind of that weird movement when he comes up?
Yeah, he's looping the bar a little bit. So that's another common mistake, is that people will bring the bar around their knees instead of getting their knees out of the way. So it's fine if your knees are in front of the bar when you set up, but as you stand, you want your knees to get out of the way instead of bringing the bar. Because again, if you imagine the bar is heavy, efficiency is key, right? Whatever the most direct path is to your ending position is going to be the most efficient. So the most direct path is a vertical line. If you have to break that vertical line by looping the bar, you have to pull that bar away from your center of gravity farther than you need to. So the fastest or the most efficient way is to just bend or straighten your knees, get the bar out of the way. Get your knees out of the way of the bar.
Maybe I should set up more like this.
Pack your shoulder blades. Yeah, that's a beautiful start. Yes. Much better.
Yeah, I think I'm going too low.
Yeah.
I think I bend my knees too much.
Yeah, it was slight, but it did make a difference. Yeah, that's a lot better. So now he's not looping the bar anymore. Do you see that? So now he's getting his knees out of the way so the bar can just go straight up. That was a lot better.
A good way to practice for me, when you go heavy, you start doing that. Just load the bar, put it on the holders or on the grip there, so it's the
Oh, right, right.
position of your finished deadlift.
Okay.
And then from there, take it off and lower it. And that's the same kind of path you want to follow. Because when you go in the negative, your body takes the most efficient way down.
Okay.
So it helps you kind of do that path. So that way, if you're going down and you have to loop it, that's extra work, right? So
Right.
whatever the straight line is, just follow that straight line. You have to follow it.
I also feel like when I do these, so if I'm doing like touch and go, my form's like a ton better. But for some reason, like every time I come off the stop, I think that's when I'm dropping my knees too low, and I don't know why I'm doing that off like the stop versus like the touch and go.
You probably should do more stop, like, I don't know, just, you know, separate reps.
Dead stop.
Yeah, dead stop, there we go. Versus unbroken, because you want that to become your norm, your default, right? You want that to be your go-to setup every time, execution. So until you get it right, then do like single reps, because your body, like if you do a set of 10 reps or whatever, like your body, your brain, the brain body connection is like creating muscle memory every time, right? So you do 10, whether they're right or you're wrong, whether they're right or they're wrong, your body's learning that to be the pattern that you're going to follow. And then you go to, you know, load up a single heavy 1RM or something, or 3RM, and you're going to default to whatever muscle memory you've built. Right. So separate and just do a bunch of singles, like light, right? Just pattern it, and then start adding weight with your new pattern. The last thing we should talk about, which I should have touched on earlier, is breathing, because breathing is key, especially if you're going to go heavy. So when you set up, and this goes for any lift. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm going to shoot you. I friended you on Facebook. I'll shoot you the video.
Awesome.
This was awesome. Like,
I'm so glad.
I know deadlift, but now I want to. Once we're together.
Yeah, awesome.
Send this over and you'll have access to this whole thing.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much.
You too.
We'll talk.
So for breathing, and this is like for any movement, especially the heavier you go, I don't want to say the more important breathing is, but like the more it's going to potentially keep you safe. We don't think of breathing as like a safety mechanism, but and when it comes to lifting heavy, it for sure is. So when we breathe, we inhale and we do like a big belly breath. Have you heard like diaphragmatic breathing or like belly breathing? So we want, yeah, exactly. We want to brace. So there's all this musculature around our trunk that is there to protect our organs, right? And then to basically keep us upright. The core musculature, which is like everything from here to here, is there to connect our upper and lower half and provide stability for our body. So when we deadlift, we want to make sure we're utilizing that and keeping our low back. You know, everyone's like, oh, I hurt my low back deadlifting. Well, cool. How are you breathing? Were you bracing? All that stuff. So when we set up and we sit back into our hinge and we're getting ready to pull, we want to inhale deeply through the nose and expand the belly. So if you put your hands on your your stomach here, I want you to inhale and let that air go into your belly so it's expanding. And now from there, I want you to brace by grunting. So do that. So you're gonna go. Do you feel all the muscles here turn on? So that right there is bracing. Yeah. So that right there, that's bracing your core, or bracing your trunk muscles, and that by activating all that musculature inside here, it's going to protect your everything while you lift. And it's likely to prevent any form breaks too. So if people, you know, have that loosey-goosey or they break their upper back starts to round, it's probably because they weren't breathing correctly. So when you set up here, if you're going for like a heavy pull, you're probably most people hold their breath during the lift because you're only gonna be doing 1 or maybe 2 reps. So they'll hold their breath throughout the lift and then exhale at the top. There's different ways you can breathe. That's like a whole other lesson we could do later, but to set it up, you're gonna wanna inhale. And as I'm inhaling and sitting back down, I'm expanding my belly and breathing the air into it. So now I'm protected as I'm gonna pick up the bar off the ground. So, and then I exhale through my teeth. I'm like hissing on the way up, or I can hold it and exhale at the top. Either way. But that's how you want to breathe when you are pulling heavy weight off the ground or kettlebell swinging.
Nice.
Who wants to try? crossover symmetry?
Yeah.
There we go. I was telling you about that earlier. Watch your neck.
I was looking up when I.
Bring the bar closer.
Yeah. Get those shins good.
So do you hear how he's breathing like that? That's not gonna, so you're breathing like you're blowing out a candle, right? We want to hiss, like you're gonna, I'm trying to think what we would do.
Like a cat. Like a cat.
Yeah.
It's like a cat.
So like T, if I were to write out the letters, it'd be like TSSSS. So don't blow out a candle. That's not gonna be helpful. There you go. Bring your, yeah, good. Inhale through your belly, bring the bar close to you. Yeah, your shoulder pack is way better.
Yeah, I can feel it. It's way
We're
thick.
using muscles we've never used before.
No, I'm using it. I know. I know. A diaphragm too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big
weird.
difference.
One of the best, my favorite ways
He's just muscling it.
that. So a great way to practice like the shoulder pack, the breathing, like everything we talked about without having to think about a lot of technique is heavy carries, farmer's carries. So if you pick up 2 kettlebells, when we go back over there, or he's grabbing it, okay. But I'm talking like heavy, like 35 is not gonna probably do it, but pick up, yeah, I can demonstrate with it, but you're gonna want enough weight that you're gonna feel it for sure. If it's like cute weight you can throw around, not gonna do it too much.
CFT.
That's right.
Sorry.
There's a CFT.
I'll turn an ankle. Field.
So pick up like, for you guys, probably at least 24 kilos, 53 pounds, maybe more, 60, 70 pounds. So you're gonna grab it here, same thing, the setup's all the same, right? Hinge, grab it, pack, neutral spine. And now here, my shoulders are packed, my shoulder blades, right? They're pulled into my back pockets. So I'm not here. If I go here, these kettlebells are, if I relax my shoulders, my kettlebells are hitting my sides. And if I walk like this, like that's not pretty, right? So if I pull my shoulders back and down, my lats are on right now. Like, look how, see my lat flare?
Yeah,
I don't have invisible lat syndrome, I have visible lat syndrome. So if I'm here, my shoulders and lats and core are firing, and these aren't even that heavy. I can just stand here, and I'm gonna feel my core starts to get tired, my lats are working. Now if I walk, now this is a dynamic movement. And now when I walk with these, I'm not just like, I'm walking slow, purposeful steps. And with every step that I take, I can feel my core adjusting to the weight transfer. And the goal here is to have minimal movement of the kettlebells. So you don't want the kettlebells like bouncing around and moving. You want them to stay as immobile as possible. Just try that.
Do that the other day. I was like, she's not getting anything out of that.
You try, you tell me. Carry the tempo I was just carrying from there to the other
Here's
side.
the problem. I grew up carrying buckets of grain, so I have like years of bad habits formed here.
Well, it's
Muscular-
better late than never.
Bad muscle memory, right?
Yeah, imagine how many CFTs could have been saved.
How many shoulders you have, right? All right, so start
Because
again.
carrying the ammo cans?
Yep, yeah, exactly. It's the same exact thing. Look at that beautiful hinge. All right, so
Yeah, he did the.
pack your shoulder blades, tuck them into your back pockets.
You don't like it?
Yep,
Oh, there we go.
cool. Slower, slower, slower. Like heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, toe. And then when you get there, walk backwards.
Backwards?
Yes. It forces everyone to slow down.
Yeah, it really does.
This is one of the best shoulder and core stability builders that I know. And it's very, very low skill. Like anybody can do this. You just have a couple things to think about.
Like underneath my, I can't stick out like you.
Yep.
That scalp, you know, that's like on fire right now.
Yep. Eyes up, chin forward, or chin up. Yep, there you go. So his kettlebells are not moving at all. And you can see his lats are firing, they're on because his kettlebells are not touching the sides.
Trying to remember that, put your shoulder blades in your pockets, it's hard to.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to contract them.
If you ever have lighter kettlebells and you're not heavy enough and you want to maybe more challenging, you remove one kettlebell.
What's the difference between squeezing your shoulder blades and putting them in your pocket?
That way you only
It's the same thing, really.
Same. Okay.
Well, actually, that's not true. So there's back and down. So squeezing your shoulder blades implies pulling them together, so pulling them back.
Yeah.
But I could squeeze my shoulder blades and still elevate. And now I'm still working my traps. But if I squeeze my shoulder blades and then pull them into my pockets, now I'm pulling them back and down.
Yeah.
And that's where we want to be. We want to live there.
Which I think naturally, I tend to go up
Yeah.
instead of down. Yeah.
Most people do, like for reasons I mentioned before. Like we just live in this like computer, phone, driving position, and we're always here. And then that carries over into our lifts. Chin up. Look at that. That's a beautiful tempo.
Never seen you so serious.
He's gliding. He's just gliding across the floor.
So elegant.
Oh my gosh, who is this guy?
your chin back a little bit. Okay. Tuck your chin back.
There you go. That's
There you
good.
go.
Yeah, that's right.
About 6 more steps.
So elegant.
Show you guys how
And
it's done.
stop. Good.
Well, yeah, you learned from us two
One.
guys going in front of you.
Now do the same thing with just one try.
Yeah, this will be
Hold on a second.
Just one arm.
Yep, you guys go to the time for this.
Back it.
So for this, even though you're only loaded on one side, you want to make it look like you're loaded on both. So don't let the kettlebell force you into compensation. Keep that spine vertical.
Usually you make a fist with the other hand just to try to make it like that. That's it.
I want to the right.
Come on, represent, sir, represent. Oh, wait. I got your back. I'm going to say your hands in the back.
So you do that three
Fire.
times a week. Your core is going to get so strong. Your shoulders will get stronger. Your lats will get stronger. Your posture will probably get better. I've had people.
We're going to do up down, like a hill.
All right.
Just keep in mind though. Keep in mind.
Training is anti-rotation. I do one off balance or anti-rotation. Very rarely do I do. Even when I do cables, I just do one side at a time. Engage as much as I can here.
I kept wanting to walk to the right.
Yes. So
Yeah.
keep in mind too, like when it comes to the single side especially, going too heavy is actually not going to be great, because if it's so heavy that you're like doing this and then you start walking, the muscles you're trying to work are not going to work.
I think he heard that.
Because when you were like, we're going to carry them for miles, like, yes, your grip,
Three-quarters of
your grip will get super strong from that, but what's happening to the rest, right? We got to think about form is key.
Yeah, you're gonna give.
You're going to carry it all the way down to Lake O'Neill. What could go wrong?
So there's a curve, right? There's
Oh, it's-
more is
it's
not all.
curved and cambered.
No, I mean like think of a graph. Like
Oh,
more is
okay.
not always better. More is better for a period of time until it's not better.
We better start transitioning up top.
We've been,
Yeah. Thanks for letting me
we've been doing
rant for
everything so
2
right.
hours.
Hey, you're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.